In a bustling upscale restaurant, a slightly bewildered elderly black man, around 70 years old, dressed in a police uniform, stepped inside, drawing curious glances from those around him. After all, President Eric himself was hosting a lunch there today. Little did anyone expect that this man was Xander, a retired veteran celebrated for his outstanding military achievements and someone the president held in high regard. Xander was, in fact, the very guest the president had invited. Still, regardless of his identity, protocol required a security check before meeting the president in case someone harbored ill intentions or concealed weapons. Xander stood still as two young white security guards patted him down. However, their disdain was evident. Behind him, one sneered, "Every time I touch that filthy old black man, it feels like plunging my hands into a trash bin. Disgusting." Initially, their inspection was routine and half-hearted, but suddenly, one of them felt a strange lump in Xander's back pocket. Pulling it out, he froze, staring at the object in confusion, a pair of little girl's underwear, likely for a child about 6 or 7 years old. Xander immediately protested. "No, that's not mine." It wasn't his, of course, but everyone knew he had no children or grandchildren. So whose was it? The only conclusion was damning. Xander was accused of pedophilia. With such incriminating evidence, he was promptly arrested, unable to defend himself. The gravity of the situation couldn't be overstated. Not only was this crime heinous, but the president was also preparing for an upcoming re-election campaign. How would this scandal, implicating a retired veteran with close ties to the president, impact his prospects? A month in prison was the most humiliating and harrowing period of Xander's life. He endured relentless abuse at the hands of the white inmates, who beat him whenever they pleased. The guards turned a blind eye, or worse, joined in. To them, Xander wasn't human. They mocked him, calling him a black old monkey. On top of the physical torment, he was left to starve and freeze, fed only enough to keep him alive. Frustrated and furious, Xander shouted, "Does the law in this country allow you to treat prisoners this way? The president will hear about this and bring justice." But his captors only laughed louder. "All you black folks are criminals," one sneered. "Even the president's no different. He'll be taken down soon enough, and who knows, you two might end up sharing a cell." Their cruelty reflected an ugly truth. President Eric, like Xander, was also a black man, now 50 years old. But contrary to their taunts, neither Xander nor Eric was guilty of any crime. However, the media was flooded with stories about Xander's case. The uproar was fueled by a press conference led by Cash, the 45-year-old Minister of Defense, and his wife, Luna, 42, daughter of the former Minister of Defense. Cash declared, "It's deeply regrettable that someone who once held a high position in the Department of Defense would act so immorally, especially considering his close relationship with the president." Evidence of his misconduct was discovered just before his scheduled lunch with the president. This is alarming, particularly as the president is also a black man like him. This raises questions about the character of black individuals. We must seriously consider whether it's wise to continue having a black man as our president. Cash's remarks ignited a national controversy. One side called for President Eric's removal, arguing for white leadership. The other side rallied in Eric's defense, demanding justice for Xander and refusing to let prejudice prevail. Amid the chaos, few noticed Luna's reaction when Xander's image appeared on the big screen during the press conference. Her face paled, and she looked utterly shocked, as though she recognized him. As Election Day approached, the arguments only grew more intense. Protests and riots erupted, with both sides fiercely clashing over their opposing views. The situation became even more tragic when a 17-year-old black teenager lost his life during an extreme protest. Eric realized he could no longer let this turmoil continue. For days, he had been tirelessly searching for evidence to clear Xander's name, but to no avail. His efforts to quell the unrest also failed. In the end, he made a difficult decision. He would hold a press conference with Xander, hoping to bring an end to the discord and violence. At the press conference, Eric addressed the nation. "I have decided to withdraw from this election and step down as president, leaving the position to someone more deserving. I cannot bear to see our people divided or resort to violence over me or anyone else. We are all citizens of the same nation. We must unite and care for one another, regardless of our differences. I resign because I want to protect the people I love." With his words said, Eric prepared to sign his resignation letter. Meanwhile, Xander began removing the last of his military insignia, bowing repeatedly and apologizing to the audience. Those who supported Eric were heartbroken, their hopes crushed despite their efforts to fight for him. On the other hand, those who sought his downfall were jubilant. The happiest of all was Cash, the Minister of Defense, who stood off to the side with an unmistakable air of triumph, unable to suppress his gloating grin. Just when it seemed the scandal had reached its grim conclusion, Eric resigning from politics and Xander doomed to live under the false label of a pedophile, a woman suddenly rushed onto the stage at the press conference. It was Luna, Cash's wife. Clutching a thick folder of documents, she stormed toward Eric, tearing up his resignation letter in front of the stunned audience. Being the daughter of a former Minister of Defense, the security guards hesitated to intervene. Luna seized the microphone before Cash could react. "Xander is innocent," she declared, her voice resolute. "The underwear found in his pocket belongs to my youngest daughter." Cash's expression changed instantly. He lunged toward Luna, trying to grab the microphone and pull her away, but it was too late. Dodging his grip, Luna continued, "Arrest Cash. He's the real criminal here." Eric, still holding the highest authority, immediately ordered the police and security to detain Cash. The man thrashed and screamed, "She's insane. I'm not a criminal." But he couldn't fight off the crowd of officers. He was quickly subdued. As the chaos settled, Luna faced the audience and spoke again. "Cash planted my daughter's underwear in Xander's pocket to frame him. He did this to spark public outrage and force Eric to resign. He's a racist who can't stand being subordinate to a black president. He's worked behind the scenes to remove every black figure from this administration." Luna then handed over the evidence, a comprehensive dossier including names of those Cash had sabotaged, some of whom had disappeared entirely, and even audio recordings detailing his schemes. The proof was undeniable. Cash was taken away, certain to face severe punishment for his crimes. Eric retained his position as president, and Xander was fully exonerated, leaving everyone in shock. After the press conference, as the crowd dispersed, Eric and Xander approached Luna to thank her with deep gratitude. Luna smiled warmly and asked Xander, "Do you remember me? Years ago, you risked your life to save me from a fire." At that moment, it all made sense. Luna had exposed her own husband's heinous actions to repay the man who had saved her life. Both Eric and Xander were reminded that living with integrity is always the right path, no matter how challenging the circumstances.